Welcome back, everybody. I'm Sassy Pants, wife to Matty the rancher, and I'll be your storyteller today. Welcome to Adventures with Sodak Pete, stories that celebrate the hard work, big hearts, and wide open spaces of ranch life. Out here, every day's an adventure, and we hope each and every one of you watching and listening can imagine yourself as little Sodak Pete, learning the ropes, getting your hands a little dirty, and helping out where it counts. So grab your boots, tip your hats, and let's see what today's adventure has in store. Sodak Pete, hauling the bales. The sun was peeking over the hill and the smell of bacon filled the cabin. Pete came clomping in, pulling on his boots, and eyes were still sleepy. "Better eat up, cowboy," I said, sliding a plate his way. "We've got a big day of hauling hay." Matty poured some coffee and he scratched out a map of the fields. "We'll start over here in the east hayfield," he said. "I'll load the bales with Jinxy." Pete grinned. "And I get to ride with you in the semi, right? You and Millie?" I nodded and smiled. "Yep, you and Millie are riding shotgun." We passed out the walkie-talkies, one for me in the semi, one for Matty and Jinxy, and of course one for Pete in his back pocket. "Keep it close, ranch hand," Matty said. "We'll be hauling hay most of the day." Out in the yard, Matty fired up Jinxy, the handy green telehandler. She growled to life with a puff of dust and a little rumble of the engine. The grapple forks lifted high, ready to start grabbing. Pete stood by the semi. He was squinting up at the trailer. "Geez, Matty, it looks like that could hold 100 bales," he said. 20 per load, I told him. "That makes hauling real easy." Millie jumped right up into the cab, excited to be along for the ride. Pete climbed up in after her and he grabbed his walkie-talkie. "Breaker, breaker," he said into it. "We're ready to roll." "Copy that," Matt crackled back. "Let's load her up." The hayfield was wide and green, with big round bales sitting quiet in the grass. Some spots were cut short and smooth. Other patches still had tall, wavy grass. Matty rolled Jinxy toward the first bale, easy and steady. He dipped the bucket low and he scooped under it, lifted it right up. "Look at that," Pete said, pressing his nose to the window. "Jinxy's got muscles." I laughed. "Jinxy's been hauling bales since before you were born, Pete." One by one, the bales were stacked up on the trailer. Pete counted them. 1, 2, 8, 9, 10. "Well, we're halfway loaded," I said. "Let's keep it rolling." The trailer creaked as we pulled out, stacked it full with 20 round bales. Pete leaned forward in his seat. "It feels like we're pulling a mountain." "You're not far off," I said. "That's a whole lot of winter supper for the cows." Millie rested her chin on Pete's leg, just watching the grass roll by out the window. From behind, Jinxy gave a low beep beep as Matty waved us on. When we got near the ranch yard, I pulled in next to the other lines of bales, nice and slow. Pete watched my hands on the control. "Now what?" I gave him a big grin and I pressed that big yellow button. Whoosh! The side rails went down and the bales rolled off like gumballs from a jar. Pete whooped, "That was awesome. Can I press it next time?" I smiled. "You bet, if you're quick on the draw." While Matty loaded the next batch of bales, Pete clicked his walkie-talkie. "Me and Millie are going on a walkabout. Over and out." Millie trotted ahead, sniffing the breeze. Pete followed a narrow cow trail that led down toward the creek. The grass was tall and soft with bright colored wildflowers all around. Pete bent low to smell one. Smells like sunshine," he said with a grin. By the water, a happy little turtle was sitting on a warm rock. Millie and Pete flopped in the shade, just listening to the creek bubble and gurgle. Millie's ears perked up and Pete froze in place. Across the creek, a mama deer stepped out of the trees. 2 tiny fawns followed close behind her, their legs wobbly and spots bright as freckles. "Oh, there's another one." Pete held his breath and whispered, "Don't worry, we're just watching." The deer drank from the creek, then melted back into the trees with the little fawns. Pete looked at Millie and smiled. Back in the field, Matty was stacking another load of bales with Jinxy. I pulled the semi into place, waved out the window, and gave the horn a little toot toot. "Howdy, radio friends," Pete giggled and chattered into his walkie-talkie. "Millie and I saw Mama Deer and her babies. The creek was cool and clean. Now we're headed back." As Pete and Millie got back at the hayfield, Matty was lining up to grab another bale. Pete grabbed his walkie-talkie with a little smirk. He said, "Nice form, Matty. Try not to drop it." Matty grinned and answered, "Copy that, Boss Pete." Jinxy scooped and stacked while Pete continued to give more tips to Matty. "That one's a little crooked," he said. "I think you need to nudge it a little bit to the left." I smiled at Pete and Matty as they chattered away on their walkie-talkies. "Think you've done enough supervising, cowboy? Load up, buddy." He laughed and he climbed into the semi with Millie close behind. She curled up on the seat right next to him. Pete settled in, put his walkie-talkie in the cup holder, and he grinned. "Let's haul one more load," he said. "I want to press the dump button this time." So we took one more load back to the yard. I eased the semi into place. Pete sat up straight, eyes locked on that big yellow dump button. "Now?" he asked. Yep, now," I nodded. Click! The side rails dropped and the bales rolled off, bumping and a thumping just right. "Best button on the whole ranch," Pete said with a grin. As the evening settled in, we all sat on the porch, boots off, legs stretched, lemonade in hand, and Millie was snoozing between us, tails just a twitching in her sleep. A lot of hay was hauled. The day had been just right. "Thanks for the help today," Matty said, tipping his hat. Pete leaned back in his chair with his smile real wide. "Anytime," he said. "Me and Millie, we are always ready." We gave thanks for young hearts working together in a ranch full of blessings, and we are grateful to the good Lord for all of it. Thanks for riding along with us today. Sodak Pete and I hope you'll join us on our next adventure.